Sri Lanka is just 30 kilometers away from India. So in that context, let's look at the availability issue, the first aspect of energy security in the light of SAARC region. Now, if you look at the availability, India has plenty of coal. As I heard last 2 days, India have more coal than what they use right now. If you go to Bangladesh, they have gas, and Nepal, Bhutan, plenty of hydro. And if you look at Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India and other countries, we have plenty of solar, wind and other renewable sources. So if you look at the entire region, I think we have all kinds of resources that we need to supply the energy to this large population. And the second important issue is the affordability, that Sri Lanka is also facing this issue right now, and most of the other countries are also facing this issue due to high prices in most of the resources. So if we can have this grid, the SAARC grid, then there are many advantages through which we can address this affordability issue. One is meeting the peak. All the countries have peaks much higher than their normal loads. So peak pricing is very, very high in all these countries. So, but peaks may occur in different time frames as well as in different locations. So meeting the peak through a grid could be cheaper than meeting the peak with their own resources. Then second one is access to cheap sources. Of course, as many countries, the countries have once interconnected, then they have access to the cheap energy produced in other countries. Also, the third important aspect is the spinning reserve. Now, without keeping spinning reserve to limited to one country, as a region, when we are interconnected, we can keep a spinning reserve for the region, which would be much cheaper than having spinning reserves for each and every country in the region. Then the third issue I want to mention is the accessibility. Now, if you look at the accessibility issue of energy security, we have geographical accessibility issues for the resources. We have geopolitical accessibility issues for the resources, and we have financial accessibility issues for the resources. It was much discussed yesterday regarding the investments on solar and wind and other resources, the financial accessibility issues. And there are technical accessibility issues. For example, if you look at nuclear or some other resources, there can be some countries which are much more geared to access these resources technically than the others. So with that, in that context, this accessibility issue can be addressed in a very economical way through a grid in the SAARC region, which would be beneficial to all. And finally, I will come into the other issue is the acceptability issue. Now, acceptability issue is some resources are not acceptable in some countries. As you all aware, now there are some issues in Sri Lanka regarding the coal power plants. And so it is being discussed, and there are so many arguments, and the projects getting delayed. So, but in India, there are so many coal power plants, there are no issues, so going on. So that acceptability issue is different from country to country, but when you look at the entire region, I think some of the resources are acceptable to some countries with the superior technologies and superior capabilities. So we can look at the possibility of harnessing these resources. And again, with the connection, I think we need to look at establishment of a regulatory framework for entire region in order to transfer energy smoothly. Currently, India is connected to Bangladesh, Nepal and Bhutan, but we don't have a regional regulator as such, but probably regional regulation should also be necessary. So with that, I conclude my talk, So wish you all the best. Thank you.